Having a point of view is vulnerable. What's your vantage point? What's your lens? So many of us are afraid to have a point of view because of how we'll be viewed, how we think we'll be seen. And what we do is we carry these wounds of not being accepted for who we've been. So we layer the versions of inauthenticity over ourselves, covering up who we actually are, covering up our unique voice. So for me, I used to be the weird kid. People called me weird. And eventually I owned that. Yes, I'm weird. And I actually love that about me. I'm actually really fucking weird. But even sharing content like this, I felt afraid of what people might think, especially those people who know me, because the feeling of sharing my voice, of saying what I actually wanted to say, far outweighed the fear of what might happen. Because what our brains do is it will try to protect us with stories and narratives of don't say that, don't show that, it's not safe. And part of why this feels so charged is because we've been raised in a world that splits everything into good or bad, right or wrong. And we don't really learn to hold our own dimensionality. So we grab onto an identity. I am this belief, I am this label, I am this side. And then when someone walks into the room with a different belief or a different way of seeing the world, we feel threatened. Instead of seeing their dimensionality and letting it inform, soften, or expand our own perspective, we clamp down. We forget, or maybe we haven't been taught, that we are not our thoughts and beliefs. Those are only expressions of us. They're stories that we're living through. They're not the fullness of who we are. But when we move through life as if my belief is my entire self, anything that questions that belief feels like a threat to our existence. And you see this everywhere. You see it in politics, where whole identities are built around a party or position. You see this in boardrooms, where one way of leading is seen as right and everything else is seen as wrong. You see this in relationships, where one partner's needs or desires are labeled too much or not enough. You see this in religious spaces. I grew up a lot with this, where one tradition is pitted against another. Buddha is wrong, Jesus is wrong, Buddha is witchcraft, Krishna is evil, instead of seeing how each path might be another facet of the same mystery. So what we do is we code switch, we people please, and we dilute ourselves. At work, we don't say what we actually think in the meeting. With friends, we laugh at things that actually don't feel good or aren't funny. Online, we only post the parts of ourselves we think will be liked. And we tuck away the rest. And over time, we bury and we bury and we bury until there's just a shell of us left. So I want to ask you, where are you diluting your expression right now? Is it around friends, coworkers, on social media? Maybe some people you just don't need to be around. Maybe you need spaces where you can fully express. But part of this is building safety inside yourself. It's the knowingness of your own importance, your own divinity, your own value and worthiness. Who would you be? What would you say? What would you do if you knew that all of you was loved and accepted? Can you receive that love? Can you love that? How would you show up in the world if you trusted that your voice, your way of seeing, wasn't a problem to fix, but a gift to offer to the world? Some parts of you might be afraid that if you really let yourself be you, you'd go off the deep end, whatever that means. You'd do something bad, or somehow you'll lose control. But that's not how love works. Love doesn't pull you away from yourself. Love draws you closer to more of your true self. Love deepens your connection to the people around you and to the world around you. So yes, you might lose some people you thought were in your corner. You might realize some rooms can't hold who you truly are, your fullness. But the blessing of being yourself, the joy of being yourself, far outweighs the imprisonment of just living a shell of yourself. You're allowed to be multidimensional. You're allowed to be fully you. What does that look like?